music was the centre of youth culture, and everything span out of that.
Where do you see the future of black creatives going?
There were no OnlyFans back then.
Iyare?
Okay, hold on. I just want to make sure. Listen, my sister in Christ, what I want to make sure is that you are on the right side of this argument. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to help.
Welcome to another episode of Mek Sense with Melzy, where we make sense of the world we live in through real culture conversations. I am your host, Melzy J. You know what to do. Please make sure you do subscribe because season 2 is officially here. So I want you to be the first to know when every episode drops. So on today's episode, we are going to be exploring media, diversity, and how black media has grown over the years. Now, I needed to get the right person for this episode, someone that's been around for a few years, that's got experience over decades now within film, media, music. So I had to kind of get him down, and I'm so glad that he's here today. Please welcome my guest, director and founder of S.O.U.L Fest, Iyare Igiehon.
Thank you very much, Melzy. It's lovely to be here.
How are you?
I'm all right. You know what? I'm good. I'm good. I've kind of been running around the last day or so, but it's been nice. Gotten a lot of things done, so it's good.
So last time we saw each other was at the S.O.U.L Fest short in Birmingham at the Mek. That's where we kind of met.
Yeah.
Really, really good that you're kind of coming from London to Birmingham to kind of put events on, which is amazing. Yeah. And obviously you also had your S.O.U.L Fest as well a few months ago. How was the actual festival in London? How was it?
Festival went really, really well. It was amazing. We had some really great screenings. We had a preview of a brand new BBC show called Mr. Loverman, which went beautifully. We had a amazing turnout for that, and we had cast on stage afterwards, like in shape of Lenny James and Arian Bakare. We also had the show's producer Innes was there with them, and the writer of the book the show is based on, Bernardine Evaristo, was so the four of them did a panel together after we showed a couple of episodes, so that was great. We had Jussie Smollett and Vivica A. Fox in from the States showing a film called The Lost Holiday that Jussie wrote and directed, and that was a whole moment. We showed a film called Sing Sing. We had we did a panel about adapting books and plays to film and TV. We did a panel about being a black British director and taking your film to the States. So it was really good, really rounded. Do you know what I mean? The response was really positive. But it's almost like that was like weeks ago now, and I'm just on to the next one, really.
Yeah, and you have to kind of keep going and kind of keep that energy up, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm just
especially when you do like a main event as well, isn't it? Like a big one.
Yeah, so I'm already working on 2025 now.
Get it. Yes, Iyare.
Yeah, that's it takes a whole year to put one of these together.
Yeah, of course. It's not easy to plan an event.
So more than that, I'm also doing, bits and pieces of work on 2026 as well. So it just takes that long, and you have to work that far in advance when you're like kind of, coordinating with venues and talent and resources. It's just it's a whole thing.
It's a whole coordination.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So we actually start the show by asking our guests what don't make sense and what does make sense.
Okay.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Go on, then you start.
I'll start.
I'm new here, so you show me how it works.
So, something that don't really make sense to me right now, I'm currently beefing with my neighbours at the moment.
Okay, that's never good. Go on.
They keep taking my parking space.
Oh, wow.
Now, I've been here the longest. I'm an OG.
Okay. Do you have to pay extra for the parking space?
No.
So the parking space is free?
Yeah.
Is it assigned to your... Do you know what I mean? Is it part of your property? Does it come with your flat?
No.
So they're
I am entitled to park there.
You're entitled to park there, but it's not your space.
Iyare?
Okay, hold on. I just want to make sure...
Iyare?
Listen, my sister in Christ, what I want to make sure is that you are on the right side of this argument. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to help, all right? So tell me, break it down for me. So it's a parking space.
It's a parking space.
Outside your apartment, but it's not a parking space that's allotted to your apartment.
In my head, it's allotted to my apartment, yeah.
But only in your head?
Only in my head, yeah.
Okay.
And a couple of other neighbours that are also aware that
that
is my parking space.
So to be clear, essentially, you're using a campaign of intimidation on your neighbours to make sure that they understand that that space, which is a general space available for anybody who lives in the block, that is, in fact, your space and that they shouldn't use it.
That is completely right.
Okay.
And I make every new neighbour aware.
Okay.
Oh, I park here. This is my space in a nice way.
Yeah.
But welcome to the neighbourhood.
Yeah, okay.
I've got this new neighbour now.
Yeah.
Not complying.
Wow, okay.
Differently, to the extent where he's not even parking in the parking spaces. He's parking between two spaces.
Okay, so that's...
So it's taken me to a new level now.
Yeah, that's just unnecessarily petty.
Now, I need to see my car from a window.
Okay.
I need to have one eye, sleep with one eye open.
Yeah.
I need to have eyes on the car. Because otherwise, who else can have eyes on my car?
Okay.
Yeah?
So what you're saying is it don't make sense that this person is just not doing what you're asking them to do.
That part.
Wow. Okay.
So glad I'm clear.
Good. Okay.
You know, if that's my parking space,
okay,
and you know I park there,
I really do.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
you
sure
should.
if I entirely can, but I do. I feel you.
You should, because if I've parked there,
okay,
for over 10 years,
yeah,
you're new to the scene.
Yeah,
you got to read the room.
Okay.
If the parking rooms and my car's there, you've got to take that as, oh, okay, she parks there all the time. Like I do it with other people. On the other side, I'll be like, okay, they park there. Okay, yeah, the BM's over there. Yeah.
So is there a shortage of spaces?
Not necessarily.
There's not a shortage of spaces.
Sometimes.
So if that person is parked in the space that you prefer, when you come along, is there nowhere to park your car?
There's somewhere to park my car, yeah.
Okay, so it's not about parking in general. It's about a specific space. You like that space and everything. So, but it's a general space. So what concessions? This new person's coming in, they've got an apartment here. They're like, okay, I deserve a space. I get a space there. I quite like this space as well. So have you tried to say, well, look, right, I prefer this space. Here you go. Have you made some sort of concession to them? Do you see what I mean?
Well, I'm kind of like...
How did the communication about this is my space?
It's more about the action. Iyare.
Okay.
As soon as they leave, downstairs, move my car back in that space.
Wow, okay.
To let you know, this is my space.
Did you consider knocking on the door, right, maybe taking over a box of chocolates and saying, listen, I genuinely trying to park in that space. I know it's not a thing, and obviously you're new here, right? I'd appreciate if you just let me use that space and everything. And as a show of goodwill, here, enjoy these tasty chocolates or something. Did you not try anything like that?
Well, that's probably step 2.
Step 2?
Step 1 is just getting him to just park in one space and not park over 2 lines right now.
But did you have a conversation with him about it?
I literally knocked on his window and was like, excuse me, hi, welcome to the neighbourhood.
Oh, right, so it was friendly.
It was friendly, yeah, always friendly, always friendly.
Okay.
You can't be aggressive and get what you want. It's not going to work.
So you sprinkled a little sugar in it.
Sprinkle a little sugar and seasoning and little...
All right, okay. And so the idea was you spoke to him and you said, right, and what was their response?
He left the car there for like 7 days, didn't move it between 2 parking spaces. Very, very irritable by that.
Wow, okay. So he parks over 2 spaces.
Yeah, I had to squeeze in and I was just like, no, it's not conducive.
Yeah, I hear that.
But now he's moved into his space and he's doing the right thing. He's not, he's on the other side.
At least he's between the lines now.
He's between the lines now.
Okay.
Like, why do you want to be outside the lines?
I don't know.
That don't make sense.
I hear you.
Park in the lines.
So is this, have we got it now?
We've got it back. We've got it back.
Under control.
I did also had a problem with the other neighbour across the way.
Okay.
Because they were parking the side of the woods.
So what doesn't make sense? What doesn't make sense? The fact that you have to have neighbours, or what does they don't?
Well, that don't make sense either, Iyare.
Okay, but like, or that like they just haven't worked out that they should just do what you say.
Yeah, they've just not worked out that you should do what I need you to do. Okay. You're not on this side of the building, so you should not be parking here anyway.
Yeah.
If you're half,
okay,
you're supposed to be that half. You shouldn't even be over here.
I'm trying. Listen, I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Come on, Iyare, man. Back me up,
trying to back you.
But it don't make sense, though, does it?
Well, something don't make sense, that's for sure. Definitely. I'm not sure if we agree what the thing that don't make sense. I'm not sure if we agree on that. But definitely something don't make sense. Tell me what does make sense.
What does make sense is I did a really, really funny post.
Yeah.
I did a really funny post to launch my season 2.
Yeah.
And I did this like cool Spider-Man effect.
Yeah.
So I dressed up in an all-in-one black jumpsuit. Have you seen it online yet?
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to have to show you.
You might have to share.
So we did this really cool video. And obviously you're in the media, so you can actually test my...
Okay, listen, I will... you want me
test
to
my,
see... Yes, to react to your video.
React to my video.
Okay,
Ready?
let me... Okay.
Just quickly dropped in to let you know you haven't subscribed to the Melzy J YouTube. Shall I tell you why? Because we are launching our season 2 on Wednesday, the 25th of September.
Okay.
So it don't make sense that you've not subscribed. So go and do that now to be in the know-how. Okay.
So that was my little funny video.
Okay.
I thought it was hilarious. I've literally had so many people
You look like a burglar.
Literally. But I love that outfit. The outfit just made sense to me.
Like, yeah, you look like a little ninja burglar.
Yeah. And then it's like, I didn't have to do my hair.
Okay.
And if I could have different coloured ballets
and
get away with it,
okay.
that would be good for the sisters. Like, forget the bonnets and the do-rags. Just want a ballet.
Do you know what I mean? You can slip in and out.
Slip in and out. If your friend calls you, we need to go sneak up on his man.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? You need to roll up on someone. Yeah,
it's like a multi-purpose outfit.
Yeah, I see you. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, I'll tell you what don't make sense to me at the moment. I mean, you know what? I like, to tell the honest truth, we got to do something about these interest rates and everything. That just don't make sense to me at the moment. The way that whole thing is just beating me up at the moment, right? Yeah, so that don't make sense, and I hope somebody will go along and fix that and get them interest rates back down again and get us into a nice healthy place with all of our our repayments and all of that sort of stuff. And
then
it's
crazy. I also, just to pick up on that, like, I just feel like it's got so expensive.
Yeah.
Like now, like, you used to be able to survive on like 30k, 35k, maybe in the Midlands now, but in London you're not surviving on that. You can't do much with that. It's crazy.
I think that's the one. It's a real challenge for our industry in that that cost of living is and the sort of transience and unpredictability of work in our industry means that it's getting harder and harder and harder for people to kind of sustain careers. And we're losing great people, so it all kind of interacts with one another. Do you see what I mean? But I wasn't trying to make a big clever point about the future of the film and TV industry, but I ended up doing that. It's just how I roll. But I think, and the other thing, what does make sense at the moment is I'm just at a place where I'm just trying to. I'm just focusing on just my health and my well-being, and that's the focus of everything. Do you see what I mean? I'm not trying to burn myself out, and I'm just kind of getting to a place of balance where it's like, okay, look, right, maybe you could work for another couple of hours, but the quality of that work would be diminished, and the balance in your life would be diminished. And actually, the better thing to do is look after yourself and make the working time much more productive and everything, and just striking that balance. So giving as much of a priority to my health and my well-being as I'm giving to my work and my career, that's making sense to me a lot at the moment.
Yeah, because you're only like 30.
Yeah. That's it. Let's go with that. Yeah, let's absolutely go with that.
But yeah, health is wealth. They always say health is wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, founder of S.O.U.L Fest.
Yeah.
Put that to one side. You've done so much work in the media industry, from music to radio to film. You've kind of done it all, really. You kind of,
Yeah, I've done a few bits. I've done bits.
You don't really ever want to big yourself up, Iyare. So
but that's...
You're seasoned.
Yeah, I've done,
You cut down.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what
I mean, it's weird. I don't really necessarily think of it in those sorts of terms. I don't, like, there's so many things that I want to do. So, and I realise that sometimes, it's interesting because obviously you always want to feel like your best is in front of you, and sometimes obviously there are key things that I've done at certain points that really kind of punched through and were noticed or whatever. And I don't want to feel like, okay, that was the pinnacle of everything I'm going to achieve. So I don't really think of it in those terms. Do you see what I mean? They were good things or whatever, but I still think I'm going to do bigger and better things, I hope.
Yeah, because I suppose you're constantly always growing and being the best version of yourself, really.
I hope so.
How did you manage to sustain a career in media? Because that's not easy.
You know what? It's one of those things where I didn't know what I was doing at the time, so it was about survival. It was about trying to capitalize on opportunities, so if you think, say for instance, I did a degree in popular music studies.
Do you like pop music? Is that your thing?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I just like, I was really into music in my sort of late teens and early 20s. And, I wanted to kind of continue that and do that at university. So I did. I got onto this course and that went well. And then I came out and started to work. Eventually was working in a little studio doing bits and pieces there, which then kind of transitioned into sort of this job doing record promotions, which led to me working on a sort of a black music website. While I was there, we started kind of dabbling with radio in the brand. We tried to create a radio show for the brand. And when we started talking to all of the kind of established DJs at the time, the amounts of money they would need to do it, to present our show for us, were just prohibitive. So myself and a guy that I worked with, Jason, at the brand, we started doing the show together. Then that brand folded, but the place where we partnered up to do the radio show, they kept us on, right? And that was a kind of a weird and interesting time. Like, it might have been 6 or 7 months or whatever, where essentially our full-time job had gone. So we had this one little radio job that was worth, I don't know, 50 quid a week or something.
Wow.
Like that, right?
Times have changed.
Difficult because at the time, my brother and I had just bought a flat together. And then my income just disappeared.
Oh, no.
Right? And so I had a really, really challenging few months. And he had an even more challenging few months.
Wow.
Because he had to hold up my end for me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And that was tough.
Yeah, of course.
And it really, I think it took a real toll on us as brothers and as family and everything. Do you see what I mean? But, he always, he helped me, kind of keep body and soul. And it was during that period that we basically managed, we were on this radio network called the Student Broadcast Network, and we would do a show for them each week. And at the end of the show, we would burn it onto a CD. We would take that CD and we would send it to the guys who were setting up what was going to become One Extra. And we just went through this thing every week. We kept sending this in. And eventually they invited us to come in and audition and try out for them. And we did a few days of trying out and they stopped us and we thought, oh no, we've blown it. And then they came back a couple of weeks later and then we carried on and then we got the show and that's how we got onto One Extra.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you like one of the first presenters on the show?
So like One Extra launched in 2002 and like they did it with a big launch show, kind of mega hour celebration type of a thing. And when they dropped into the proper ongoing schedule, ours was the first show.
Oh my gosh.
In 2002. And that was a whole kind of that was a whole adventure in itself. But like that whole thing is that, that idea of the support network you have, right? If I hadn't had my brother at that time, I wouldn't have been able to keep body and soul together for long enough to get through that process. I'd have had to have dropped out of the process to get onto One Extra and my life would have been completely different. Do you see what I mean? And it was so tough at the time, particularly, because think about it, you pay a mortgage, right? So imagine you've made an arrangement to split a mortgage with someone and that other person says, I just can't pay. I can't think about what that would do to your relationship. Do you see what I mean?
I'm so to sell my toes on OnlyFans.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? There were no OnlyFans back then. Do you know what I mean? I
get them toes out.
I'd limited options.
Yeah, of course.
And so it was getting to the point where I was going to have to give up on all this stuff. And then one extra happened just in time to kind of keep it all together. Do you see what I mean?
Wow.
But yeah, so it was tricky to kind of make it through to that point. Do you see what I mean? But
I think that's kind of a struggle with a lot of creatives, really. It's like sometimes you feel like you need to have another stream of income coming in because the jobs are not always like permanent. They're 6 months, it's on a contract. And I think that's what makes you sometimes just forget it. I'm just going to get a full-time job because it's security.
Totally. Yeah, and you know, there is a certain sort of comfort to that. But equally, you know, there's a sacrifice that you make in terms of your autonomy, your ability to kind of control your schedule, your interest, you know what I mean, to react to the world and do your thing. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Being one of the first presenters in One Extra, how do you think the music scene has developed over the years? Because I just feel like we've got so much more, and films, do you know what I mean? Like more representation. It's a beautiful thing to be able to see that over the years.
Yeah, I think so. So if you take, say, 2002 and going from that point, you know, we had a strong sort of underground music scene in the UK. I think the big change in that sort of music scene was that much more of it. Now, if you think about then compared to today, right, the biggest rapper in the UK was an underground artist in 2002. The biggest rapper in the UK is a mainstream artist in 2024, and that's the difference. That music is all, you know, there's still clearly very much an underground scene or whatever, but there is, if an artist wants and they have they have what it takes, there is a much clearer route to going from being an underground artist to being a mainstream artist and working in that way. And that wasn't necessarily so established in 2002. So that's one of the big changes. There are many, many more outlets and ways to kind of enjoy the music.
Yeah, I was going to say
2002 was pre-streaming.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
2002 was like the sort of the dawn of digital radio. They were available, but they weren't prolific. Now every new car comes with a DAB radio built in, but that wasn't the case. They weren't in cars in 2002. You know,
that's crazy that you say that, man.
You had these separate little digital radio boxes, and digital radio. I think people, when in the inception of digital radio, I think people thought it was going to follow a path that was similar to FM radio, and it was going to become this ubiquitous thing where, you know, in 2002, you'd go into every house and there'd be an FM radio, multiple FM radios. You know, there would be one in the kitchen that would just be on all of the time. And there would be one that was built into the stereo unit in the front room or whatever. And the kids would have one in their bedroom and things like that, you know.
And it's also how people receive music as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you didn't have the records or...
Yeah. So, like, collecting records was a pastime that, you know, it was a spenny pastime. You needed money. Do you know what I mean? I remember having to pay £15 to buy essentially one song on vinyl. Do you see what I mean? Crazy. So it's like, you know, it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I think with those new streaming avenues like Spotify and YouTube, and then you got DAB, obviously we had like Channel U and different channels where our music could be played, but... It was, I just think that digital's just grown so much and enabled us to reach so much more people.
Yeah, and there's just lots more ways to kind of access the music, you know. If you wanted to, like in 2002, if you wanted to know what was the best new hip-hop record that came out that week, you had to listen, you had to pick up a radio, tune in at a specific time and listen to that DJ who would tell you, you know. And, you know, unless you were lucky enough to work in a record shop or in a record label or something where you had access, those are the only kind of ways you could find out. Do you see what I mean? We're talking that, like, there weren't even that blogs and things like that really established by then. So, you know, so it's changed now. Do you see what I mean? It's like, you know, like an an artist can put a record on social media and reach millions of people in hours. Do you see what I mean? That's the difference now.
And I think it's great. I just think it's great that now we have so many platforms where we can just access. Because I'm a radio girl. Like, I'm still a radio girl.
Yeah,
but do you know what I mean?
Do you know? I mean, the thing is, there's kids that are growing up that was always streaming, and for them, radio doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why would I have someone else tell me what music to listen to? If I want to listen to music, I just pick what I want, and listen to it straight away. That wasn't the case when we grew up, and also it was a communal thing, So I think music's still important in terms of youth culture and everything. But when I was a kid, music was the center of youth culture, and everything span out of that. Do you know what I mean? What are we wearing? Well, okay, what are they wearing in music videos? And your style was dictated by the music that you were into. And where shall we go on a Saturday night? Well, that was dictated by the music you were into. Do you see what I mean? And, and you almost like your friend groups and everything. Do you see what I mean? You would have your people you hung out with were people that you would go raving with, or that you would like. Do you see what I mean? So music was so central to our identity and our sense of who we were and everything. Now, music is still incredibly important to youth culture, but maybe the epicenter of youth culture is more about online. It's more about things like this, like podcasts and social media and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat. And that's the center of where youth culture is kind of happening. And music is still obviously a very massive part of that, right? But because of the different ways you access music, the shift to the epicenter of youth culture has changed, and that's another big thing, So, when I was a kid, you needed those major networks and everything
to make it.
To get involved. How did you find out about stuff and everything? You needed those things. You needed, the big radio stations and the big DJs and everything. When kids can find their way. If a kid is really, really interested in some sort of obscure underground music scene, they don't need a DJ to kind of open that up for them. They've got different channels through which they can do that. And so that gatekeeping, curatorial thing is, it shifted,
Yeah, I actually went through a whole suitcase of CDs.
Yeah.
Had like a large suitcase CDs, and I couldn't believe I collected so many CDs. I had Kano in there, Adele, Beyonce, Cisco. I had more DJ CDs, loads of DJ CDs, which really made me think, how much raving did you really do, Mels? Yeah. How much work? Because I remember I'd be the first person outside the rave to get the free CDs, because DJs got the latest tracks, whether it was, when house was happening, garage, grime, like I still access that through DJs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so now so that's still an important part of it, but it's less the epicenter of it. Do you know what I mean? If you wanted to know, you wanted to keep up, and you wanted to know what the bangers were and the tunes were, you had to kind of follow those DJs and pay attention. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas there's a way of kind of keeping up in a way that you don't necessarily need that. It's still part of the mix, though.
Of course it is. Yeah. And in terms of like film now, obviously, I feel like film's a little bit different. I feel like it took a little bit longer to progress. Like, why do you think that was?
I think
it wasn't ready for us?
No, technologically, that's what the difference was. So if you imagine, right, okay, so if you think about that time now, you think about like the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s or whatever. If you wanted to make a record, right, there was a point where you had to go to a special building, right, where they had a bunch of expensive specialist equipment, right? And that's, to go to that room, and you booked time in that room, and you booked time with the people who could operate all of that equipment and things like that. And you made, you got together a bunch of people and they played instruments, and that's how you made a record, right? Yeah. So what happened with music is the technology changed, right? So if you think about it, you could get a computer that you could buy and put in your house, and start to use as a multi-track recorder. The technology changed, and so people were starting to be able to make like records in their bedrooms that were good enough to kind of
make it work.
Do you see what I mean? And so that's why music happened before film.
Okay.
You see, so there's still not a way. There's, so for instance, what we're doing now, we're making a podcast now, right? So 20 years ago, what we're doing now wouldn't have been possible in the way that we're doing it. That we're sitting in a room with just a few of us being able to create this, bit of video content in a way, that looks a certain way and can be kind of disseminated in a certain way. That wasn't possible, and that's what it is. So you can see how now, in 20 years ago, we would have had to have gone to central television and set that to be able to film something like this.
So it's access to a certain extent, isn't it?
So the technology changes things and lowers the bar in certain types of. So this type of content we can make, but if we wanted to make a Spider-Man movie, we still got to do a lot of. There's still a lot of technology that's not things that we can just easily get hold of by hand. But there is kind of storytelling and movie making that we can do on a budget that's dropped into our sort of range in general. And that's why I think that's the difference between music and film, is that the music was more accessible at a price point that meant, but the delta between the money you needed to spend to be able to create something that was sellable and workable was just smaller.
Yeah, crazy.
So if I want to make a serious movie and do something like that and get it in cinemas, I still need £1 million.
Yeah. Still need that big.
You know what I mean?
There's still that gap, really, isn't it?
And that's difficult to bridge that gap. But if I want to record a really, really quality album, if I've got lyrical skills and a beat maker, we could maybe make an album like that for a few £1,000s.
Yeah, wow.
But but that could sell to millions and stream to millions of people. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But if I want to make a movie that people will go out and see, I need a bigger level of investment, and that's what the difference is.
Yeah, and talking about like S.O.U.L Film and S.O.U.L Fest, one of your main aims to kind of put black creatives and filmmakers to highlight their shows. The shows that we saw on the shorts were just so relatable and they were so different as well. Why do you think it's important to promote and push black filmmakers?
There's lots of reasons, really. I mean, one, they've got talent that demands that their work should be seen. I think there are audiences who are hungry to see that work. You know what I mean? So if you think about we've got audiences and people who don't necessarily get to see themselves in different ways and in different lights, so that's part of why you have to do it, is because the audience needs for you to do it, the talent demands that you do it, but there's a whole thing, there's also there are economic reasons for why we should do it as well. The fact is that one of the things that I think will have a greater bearing on the future of the sort of media industry is that ability to talk to multiple people from multiple backgrounds simultaneously is going to be increasingly important. And I think, particularly in Britain, where black people have grown up and developed knowing inherently, because they're black people growing up in a predominantly white society, they have an innate understanding that what they are and their view of the world and their place in the world isn't all that there is. Sometimes when you're part of the dominant element of any society, you don't necessarily have that viewpoint. So you
even think about it.
Yeah, exactly. But as that ability to communicate with multiple kind of viewpoints simultaneously becomes more and more important in sort of the global content creation, my hope is that we'll be able to find an advantage in our experiences of kind of growing up and having to code switch between multiple sorts of viewpoints of the world, and hopefully that will arm us. So maybe the greatest kind of film and TV producers and creators will, in Britain, will be coming from Black Britain and from the diverse communities, because they're able to simultaneously talk to their own communities whilst being able to work with the broader mainstream communities as well. So that's what I think, hopefully.
Do you think directors and actors have to move to America now to make it big with this new level of highlight on black film in the UK?
I don't think you have to.
Okay.
I don't think you have to. You don't have to.
You probably more did before.
Well, I think certainly, like, to get to a certain level that you need, historically, that's what's appeared to have to happen in order to kind of transcend, to get over a certain level, to get a certain level of spread, to command a certain level of paycheck, to be able to carry a project that you needed that sort of acknowledgement from, and predominantly that would come from the States. Mm-hmm. You needed that. And to an extent, that's still the case. I think, a top actor or director in this country is probably operating on a global level as opposed to a local level. You know what I mean? I doubt there aren't a huge. There are a few examples of people that don't have to do that, but most people are having to, like, at that top level, you're working internationally. So sometimes you'll do a project in Hollywood or wherever a film might be shooting, and sometimes you'll work in the UK, and actors, they'll do that, as well. And writers, it's less so, because obviously writers can generally operate from wherever, but generally they have to be around the epicenters of where the productions are happening. But you can move. I don't think you have to go to the States, but you'll still see our top actors, our top directors, our top writers will ultimately still be going to those places, because ultimately there's a certain, as you work your work, in order to have the sort of control over your career where you can say, right, okay, we're making, a multi-million-pound project and we're going to do it in the UK. Often you'll have had to have worked your way up, and that will inevitably have involved work in places like the States as well.
Yeah, I think there is that kind of ideology that sometimes you have to kind of move out, because the jobs are still limited here, really.
Yeah, I think
then you got to create your own. I think there's power in creating your own scripts, your own films, your own stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think the thing is that, like, you have to. It's just like a version of all those sorts of things. I grew up in North London, right? I had to go to Leeds to do a degree. Do you see what I mean? If I wanted to I just had to go to the place where I was able to kind of get in and work with it. Do you see what I mean? And I think that's what's happening in the film and TV industry. If you can make it work, if you can stay where you are and make it work, then great, that's good for you. But sometimes you're going to have to move and go where the work is and go where the opportunities are for you at that given moment. And it's very difficult until you're very, very well established to kind of control that element of it. Generally, as you're making your way, you've got to kind of, you've got to go with wherever you can get the work. So, I mean, that's a part of it. I think what's kind of happening is that as the technology is, that we've got these 4 and 8K cameras that are lightweight and affordable, you're now starting to see more and more interesting content being made that's kind of looks good enough and global class in that way, but isn't necessarily costing millions of or hundreds of thousands of pounds a minute or an hour to produce. Do you see what I mean? And that's now, so that will change that whole thing of having to move. But, like, say for instance, if you want to be in big superhero movies, you've generally got to move. Do you see what I mean? Or something, you've got to kind of go with where the work is,
I'm thinking about getting back into acting.
Are you?
Yeah, I used to go to identity drama school.
Oh wow, okay.
Back in the day, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I studied performing arts, so I did a lot of did some directing, some writing, lots of acting, and I love it. Like, I love being able to play like different characters, and it's just fun. Yeah. It's just a fun thing. Anything creative is just really, really fun.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of black creatives going, and how is S.O.U.L Fest going to impact that and promote it, of course?
Well, I think what you're kind of hinting at is this whole idea of us getting more control over our own things, being able to have that agency and our connection directly to our audiences and being able to monetize in a way that we're able to survive and keep going and everything. And I think the ways of doing that are going to improve, So at the moment, what we're seeing predominantly, that is the way that you can kind of directly go to your audience and make money. The most prominent version of that we're seeing are YouTubers and podcasters, aren't we? So, those guys are able to, connect directly with an audience, build that audience to a scale that allows them to survive and thrive on the income that they can generate that way, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to see examples of people who are not necessarily just staying in that sort of non-scripted factual space that we're in right at this second, but are also getting into that scripted space. And, the kind of two sort of poster boys, I guess, of that at the moment are probably Ajani Salmon and Rapman, where, they've started in these YouTube spaces. They've started in that sort of space where they're driving itself, that self-funded space, but then they've kind of evolved it and grown it into that mainstream television production space. I think we'll see more of that. I think that's definitely something that's going to be happening more. I think creating content directly for those places, whether it be YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or all of the places that people go online for content like that, I think that will become more of a prominent thing. I think people transitioning from that into sort of mainstream stuff. Yeah,
because you got like Netflix and stuff like that. Like Supercell blew up this year. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is basically normal, traditional TV making. That's essentially what it. But what gives Rapman the sort of clout to make that is is based on the fact that he has a really passionate audience who want to see what he's doing and are connected to them. It's no coincidence that when they were promoting Supercell, they were wrapping buses in the artwork and pictures of the cast, right? But on the back of the bus was a direct quote from Rapman speaking directly to the audience that they were getting. Do you see what I mean? And because Netflix and Rapman, they understand that the core of that audience, the passionate part of that audience that are going to seek it out the moment it drops on Netflix and boost it up and make it more visible and create all that excitement around it, are those people that are following Rapman since Shiro, since from his online, since when he used to do the wrap-ups every year and everything.
It's like the tribe, innit?
Those people are following, and those are the core of people, and they're the core of that creates the excitement. It's like, hold on, and the rest of us are all like, oh, bloody hell, what's going on over there? And then we all jump in as well. Do you see what I mean?
Literally.
But that, I think, artists creating those core audiences that are close to them and that they're deeply connected with and that follow them and lift them up, I think that's part of what the future is going to be. And the way that S.O.U.L Fest is going to be able to support that is by creating another platform for these artists to kind of connect with their audiences and to show the world their work.
And what do you think's been the biggest impact of S.O.U.L Fest? And obviously I know you connected to We Are Parable and collaborations with
British Blacklist and ABFF.
Yeah, like what's the main aim for you as a collective?
So I think the thing is just to kind of, the core of it was always connecting audiences and talent, So like we got audiences who want stories and want a point of view that only creators from their communities can provide for them. And so we want to keep creating a platform for that and hopefully understand that will then create opportunities for people going forward. And I think it's just to kind of continue to celebrate and acknowledge talent from our community.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Iyare. Yeah. I could literally speak to you for hours. I really wish we had more time.
I'd love to.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know. Tell everybody where they can find S.O.U.L Fest, what you've got coming up next.
Sure.
Where they need to go to.
Okay, so if you want to get involved with S.O.U.L Fest, the key things to do are either join the mailing list via our website, follow us on social media, predominantly through Instagram, but we're on places like Facebook as well. Sign up to all those things so you can hear about what's going to be, all the plans and what's going to happen for the next version of the festival, which will be happening in August of 2025.
Amazing. And where can everyone find you? You can Google him, by the way.
Yeah.
You've got Wikipedia and all sorts.
Yeah, just don't do that. Just, you know, I mean, you can find me predominantly. I'm not like one of those
You're
kind
not
of.
social.
I'm not a super active social media type of a person. Do you see what I mean?
You're not.
You know what I mean? If you want,
You should though.
Yeah, if you want to find me, do you see what I mean? It's like you just catch up with me out.
Outside,
do you see what I mean?
I get that.
But I'm on Instagram, I guess. I'm on
really
LinkedIn,
post,
but I'm not really a poster. I've got to try and do something. Maybe you can share some of.
Of
do you see what I mean?
course.
You know what you need to do? You need to lend me that bodysuit. do you see what I mean? And let me do my own little video. Do you see what I mean? You got to share with me. Teach me your ways.
I'll teach you your ways of doing a little promo.
You
I've
know
got
what I mean?
you, Iyare.
Maybe I need to kind of get a bit more involved in that sort of thing. But the thing is, it's just like. Yeah, I always
It's
feel,
a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, like, do you know what I mean? The people really need to see what.
Yeah, but that
what sort of
interview that
stuff.
we posted on your Instagram, people were really interested to hear from you, Iyare.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got quite a lot of likes, got a lot of comments. And we're like, yeah, that's my bro. Yeah. Like, you know, you got some big ups in the comments. So we'll have to work on that.
Maybe.
Can skill exchange with all of your experience.
Yeah. All right. You know what I mean? Okay, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do a little swap.
Little swap, you know what I mean?
Okay, see what we
but
can
yeah,
do.
it's been such a pleasure having you
it's been
today.
lovely to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mek Sense with Melzy. You can catch us every Wednesday via audio and every Thursday visuals. So make sure you go and follow us on Instagram, which is at Mek Sense with Melzy. And you can also find us on TikTok, Melzy J. That's it from me. Catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.